foods to avoid with a question mark? Are there things that people with lupus need to avoid? So the first question is around potatoes, white potatoes. So someone said, if you are sensitive to white potatoes, how do you find out if this is inflammation due to molecular mimicry to gluten or a nightshade sensitivity?
So if you are sensitive to white potatoes, it could be that you have an intolerance to white potatoes, which would actually lead to inflammation. The nightshade sensitivity, so people tend to be kind of nightshades also, it all ends up being a little bit the same thing, right? If it's molecular mimicry, if it's a nightshade sensitivity, kind of the point is, are you intolerant to this particular food and is it causing inflammation in you? In which case, you probably should avoid it. Once again, a nice way to find out if you're intolerant to it is to completely remove it from your diet for a series of weeks or even months, and then reintegrate it, wait 3 days and see how you feel. In terms of the nightshade sensitivity and just potatoes in general, one thing that people tend to find with the nightshades is that they can't tolerate them because nightshade vegetables, just like potatoes, just like wheat products, just even for some people, things like rice, are high in FODMAPs. And that is fermentable oligosaccharides. You may have heard of the low FODMAP diet, which basically removes absolutely everything tasty from your diet. It's possibly the hardest diet to follow ever. And so these, and it may be a lot of people who actually have leaky gut, as I'm saying, and gut dysbiosis, so an imbalance of the bad and the good bacteria. People who have IBS symptoms do find it really difficult to digest a lot of foods that are high in these fermentable oligosaccharides, in which case it is recommended to kind of, for a period of time, diminish those and just, kind of once again focus on the vegetables, mostly the green leafy vegetables, maybe the cruciferous vegetables, things like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, and so on, and stay away from the nightshade vegetables, and then reincorporate them slowly and seeing maybe you can tolerate tomatoes, but you can't tolerate potatoes, so that's it.
Great, thank you very much. And someone else said that, many people like potatoes a lot. So if they were sensitive to potatoes, what other choices would you recommend to substitute in their diet?
Okay, so if you do find out that you are sensitive to potatoes, some great substitutes if you want still that starchy taste. Sweet potatoes are fantastic. Any kind of squash is great as well. So squash, pumpkin, any other kind of, I would say, vegetable out there. Even the nightshade vegetables, things like aubergine, if you're not sensitive to those. Other things, chickpeas are great because they give you that sense of fullness. And brown rice, whole grains, quinoa is wonderful as well. Amaranth, millet. There's a whole wide range of foods out there that you can replace if you are sensitive to potatoes.
Or even if you're not sensitive to potatoes, it's an exciting world. Excellent. And so someone else has asked, they're aware that people with lupus are often guided to avoid alfalfa, which is a type of bean sprout, I think, and echinacea. They wondered whether there were any other foods which are known to be triggers for lupus activity and should be avoided.
So alfalfa and echinacea in particular are people with expressing lupus are told to avoid them because they are known to stimulate your immune system. So actually echinacea, the reason that it's recommended, it's actually one thing that's recommended when you have a cold or a flu, because it's supposed to rev up your immune system and help you fight it. So that's why they're not recommended. When it comes to the other foods and any recommendations of foods in particular, this is very individualized, right? So it's about figuring out what foods, again, are a trigger for you, what foods make you feel poorly. I don't know of any other specific foods for lupus that are absolutely not recommended. Garlic, it really depends on the person. And some people it's a trigger, they can't tolerate it. And some people it's actually really good because garlic also has some really beneficial properties. So once again, it's about listening to yourself.
Great. So we did have a couple of questions about garlic where people had heard contradictory information about whether it's good to have if you've got lupus or an autoimmune disease, or if it's a bad thing to have. So is there any sort of conclusion on this, or does it really vary between individuals?
Okay, so garlic may enhance the anticoagulant action of warfarin. So if you receive warfarin as part of your medication, you may wish to reduce garlic consumption and probably seek other herbs and spices to enhance food taste. On the other hand, garlic contains some compounds that might send some people's immune system into overdrive and flare up symptoms. So from all walks of life, cutting down on garlic could be beneficial, but this does not mean that you should entirely exclude it from your diet. Do not put it in the blacklist. There is no use for that. Just consume it in moderation and probably replace it with some other herbs and spices. But yeah, as I said, don't put it in the blacklist. We do not have robust evidence right now to support that it is that detrimental for your health.
That's great. Thank you so much. So the last question in this topic is about eggs. Are they considered to be an inflammatory food, and should they be avoided by people with lupus?
So eggs have been like a big topic of controversy, right? Over the past 10 years, we were told don't eat them because of cholesterol and things like that. So eggs can actually be a very healthy part of your diet. Where I stand on eggs is about where are you getting the eggs from, you know, and it's about kind of the quality of the eggs. So once again, visiting your local farmer's market, getting pastured eggs, these eggs tend to have, there are studies that have examined the nutrient composition of pastured eggs versus kind of supermarket eggs. And they have way more vitamin E, way more vitamin A. They have more omega-3s, and they're just much more nutrient rich. Eggs can also be a great source of, again, animal protein in the diet. So, but a lot of people, eggs are also one of the foods that several people have intolerances to. So once again, it's about figuring out, are you somebody who can tolerate eggs? Are you somebody who can't tolerate eggs? Also, how many eggs are you eating? If you're eating 6 eggs a day, then maybe, yes, we should cut down a little bit on that and try and replace that with some more, you know, vegetables and plant-based foods. But there is no evidence to show actually that eggs increase your cholesterol, perhaps quite the contrary. Cholesterol is actually essential for your brain health and for your cells. And so we should not be fearing eggs or egg yolks on that basis. So if you are eating eggs and you're enjoying them, I would say, you know, go for it. If you're not eating eggs and you hate them, this is not also telling you that you should be starting to eat them.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you very much.